Welcome back to another entry of Waiting on the Trade, the Dream Journal. I'm Patrick Fitzgerald Fleck, and as always, I'm joined by my two favorite reoccurring nightmares, Matthew Ledger.
Hello.
And Michael Drew.
He's got a skin disease. I mean, hi. Nice to see everyone again.
Mike's just nailing it today. I'm sorry. It's like Mike wins the podcast already.
This episode, we're exploring the Sandman Volume 3, Dream Country. This one's more of an anthology of short stories than a single plot line, but that won't stop me from asking Matt to summarize it for us. What you got, Matt?
I've got a really good summary, Pat.
As always.
Dream Country contains 4 short stories starring a shitheel writer and a captured muse, a cat who wants to take over the world, a William Shakespeare, and DC Comics all-star Element Girl. Almost every story is illustrated by a different artist, showing off how varied and disparate Sandman can be. But do these stories have any connecting threads? We will find out in this discussion. Maybe. They do, Pat says.
They do.
So whose discussion question should we start with?
We could do my question first. I like my question. I think
I was literally discussing your question with Kat 10 minutes before this, and we both had the same answer.
I mean, yeah, but you and Kat are, speaking of cats that want to take over the world, you live with one. Anyways.
I was going to say, the first two descriptions of your summary hits very close to you, Matt. The shithole writer.
Cats who want to take over the world. Perfect.
All right, Mike, what's your question?
Which entity has greater power, death or dream?
Okay, we're going to do another countdown, even though...
I thought it was fine.
No, okay, no, he's fine. But I'm like, are we going to do another countdown to our answer? Because we did that last time.
Oh, I see.
When you guys were wrong and I was right. And we'll do it this time when you guys are wrong.
Pretty sure that we were right and you were wrong, but it's fine. You can still keep thinking that you're right because you're wrong.
I will let you know that Kat also kind of agreed with me about the last question, although she would say destiny is the least moral of the endless. I tried to point out destiny was not in that volume. She did not care.
Destiny's the most moral of the endless.
Oh, okay. That might be a side question. But first, 3, 2, 1. Death obvious.
Depends.
Dream? Question mark? I have a dream with a question mark.
Okay, so I have one out for you guys to be right, and that's it. And I want to see if you hit it.
Well, Mike, see if you can hit it. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I doubt I will, but we'll try.
It's all right.
All right, so we've got Death, who is arguably, I mean, she's Death. She everything dies. Therefore, she has, in some respect, control over everything at a specific point in their existence.
I'm going to give you a point in your favor. I don't know that it's control.
Death can control stuff. Maybe. I guess she does demonstrate that in this book.
Okay, here's the deal.
Okay, shut the fuck up. Let me finish. No.
I think this is worth examining. And if we're going to only do 3 discussion questions per podcast, let's dig into them.
Okay, fine. Fuck you. Go ahead.
Death controls when people die or entities die.
Does she though? I think she just shows up when shit happens, which is.
This is what I'm. Yeah, no, we're agreeing, Mike. We're saying the same thing.
Oh, I thought we were arguing. I'm sorry.
Death herself does not kill anyone.
No, I mean she can offer help, but she doesn't. She doesn't dictate.
No, I've read this before, and I've read other death stories. She doesn't kill people.
No, she doesn't.
No, she's just like, hey, you died. I'm here.
Died.
Let's go do what's next. Here's a question for you guys. Hell exists in Sandman. Is hell what's next for some people? Or is hell just another stage of life?
I don't know.
I mean, I went through hell in my 20s, so there's whatever. Moving on.
I mean, hell is what you make it, right? That's what we learned in the Element Girl story.
Hell is other people's what we learned in the Element Girl story.
I thought they were the friends we made along the way. Anyways, speaking of hell.
Hell is the people you do a podcast with, Mike.
I understand this clearly right now.
All right, Mike, so why is Dream more powerful than Death?
How dare you try to steer him back on the tracks? Get out of here.
So we've got Death, who shows up randomly in places when things happen. Dream is constantly everywhere. Like, we have, in theory, Death shows up at, like, at specific moments when things need to
Specifically
be.
talks about how she's constantly everywhere in this. Can
Okay,
I let me find you this quote, Mike? Hang
okay,
on.
let's go there. Go ahead. I will allow you to argue like the pathetic
I'm
lawyer you are.
paging. Here we go.
Listeners, Matt has had a few beers before we started this, so that
Matt has
might
had 2
explain what's
beers.
going
One of
on.
them was a double, though.
Oh fuck! I gotta catch up?
No.
I don't
I'm in
feel like this is fair.
I am in cars and boats and planes, in hospitals and forests and abattoirs. For some folks, death is a release, and for others, death is an abomination, a terrible thing. But in the end, I'm there for all of them. I am in all those places, and I'm also here talking to you. So death is also everywhere.
No. Death is wherever death is occurring.
Which is
That's
everywhere.
okay, not all the time though. Like, okay, how many times does something die in its life? In a living thing's life, how many times does it die?
Sure, once.
Once,
Okay.
maybe twice if you're lucky. How many times do those things dream?
More than once.
Yeah, more than fucking once. So dream is, and not infinitely more and everywhere, but he's got a lot more time with everything. And given this hidden ability that somehow exists, that if enough of these beings that are dreaming at any given time start dreaming the same dream, they can change the whole of reality.
Oh, Mike, you're so close to it.
It seems like dream can literally change. He could be given the opportunity to change all of reality into
Okay.
in a way where death would not even be in existence, where he could rewrite all of the other, like he could rewrite reality to be just a dream. Like that's right. Like maybe I'm not reading it correctly, but that's a pretty fucking ridiculous ability.
Okay, so Mike's real close to it, and I think I'm going to give it to him. Could human beings dream death out of existence? Go.
Why the fuck not?
This is what, like, kind of, right? Like, so I was considering the question, and we were texting back and forth, and I was like, it's obviously death. But then I reread it recently, and I was like, the cats can dream a world where cats are the dominant species. Could humanity not just dream death out of existence? I literally don't know.
Maybe sort of read a short story where they did that for a time at least.
It's a good question, and I mean,
Death in Venice or whatever it is.
Oh, that's right, kind of, huh?
I don't think it's called Death in Venice.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm gonna look it up.
No, it is. That's correct. I remember because it's a title that's taken from some other story.
so right, like I'm sorry, I agree. Death is in.
It's Death and Venice. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Nick.
I'm sorry. That's my bad.
I agree in the scheme of things, death probably is more powerful in respects. But Dream has a pretty big fucking stick, to quote Teddy Roosevelt, because every good podcast.
Also, Death is sort of a one-trick pony, right?
Yeah,
Like she only has one job to do. She does it very well, and she does it all over the place all the time. But it is only one thing. Dream, I don't think has a limit. It's only limited by the creativity
Imagination of the beings in existence.
of
Yeah.
the people dreaming. So,
Well, not even people, right? Like,
I mean,
cats.
whomever.
See, fucking cats having don't. Hey, cat, how's it going? Cats can dream.
I almost had Kat hop in here because I was like, Kat, I'm gonna get outvoted, and I could use a backup. But she was like, No, I haven't read it, and I was like, All right, that's fine.
That's fair.
No, I haven't read it.
So yeah, that's my answer to that question. I think I do. I think Dream is conceivably the more powerful of the two.
I've already talked a lot, Pat, so you have to talk now.
Pat, break or tie.
I am leaning more towards Mike's, but I guess I have a question.
Yeah, you are.
Does in the story A Dream of a Thousand Cats, Dream, like Morpheus himself isn't shaping the world. It's the intent of the dreamers, right? That's shaping the world.
Yes.
Can you then call that Dream's power if he himself isn't wielding it?
Not really.
Not really. I mean, I don't know.
At the same time, we just said that death doesn't kill people. So really, what is she doing exactly?
Yeah, I guess that's another question, right? Like it comes back to that same thing Dream said in the last volume to Desire, where he's like, "Hey, we're the dolls." Because do they actually have any power? Or do we just do stuff and like they exist because we do stuff? Which
Right.
is such a Neil Gaiman thing, right?
Like killing or dying happens and death occurs,
Yep.
but death wouldn't occur unless mortals or
Existed.
yeah.
Well,
It's
died,
it's
right?
the
Like,
chicken or the egg kind of thing, and the same thing with
because
dreaming.
if we
You need to
somehow
dream.
dream into existence a world where we don't die, death would cease to have existed, right? Because that's the thing he tells the cat is like, not only did they dream into an existence a world where they were the dominant species, like they dreamed a world where it was always that way.
Where this never even fucking happened.
So could you dream a world where death just never happened? Probably.
Yeah, you probably could.
Probably. So maybe you guys are right. I don't know. But like canonically, when the endless talk amongst themselves, they talk about the fact that, and Pat, you probably have this more memorized than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
It's destiny, then death, then dream, and then the rest of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, in seniority and the fact that they're in age, yes, I think death. Actually, I don't know about dream and destiny, but yes.
Neither do I. I can't remember which started
Hang
first.
on. Now I got it. I was gonna Google it today and I got too busy
I'm
actually
sure at
fucking
one
writing
point
stuff.
I,
Morpheus might refer, like death might say, my
I
two
think
younger brothers or something like that.
I think that order is correct for how I've seen it in the past too.
I mean, it sounds right.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to
But at
look
the same
very fast.
time, destiny doesn't do anything other than what his book dictates him to do.
Yeah, which is why actually, like, Kat was trying to argue that destiny is the least moral of the endless when we were
I'd
talking
say that
before the
that
recording.
absolves of him any morality. He's in charge of his actions.
He's
But
impartial.
like, you're always in charge of your actions, though, a little bit. I mean, not always. I don't know.
Destiny. He's
Anyways,
literally, it's written and he does what it
He,
says.
he
this
has
might
to
be
do
a
what the book
discussion
says.
for a future episode, I feel like, maybe. We'll
Okay,
see.
I'm saying most endless, at least of those three, I don't think have ownership of what, like in these instances of what powers that they control. So in that way,
Maybe none
I
of
don't
them
know
do.
if yeah, that's my point. Like I don't know if the endless actually have power. So this question is sort of moot for me.
So, my take on it initially, before kind of re examining it in light of the cat story, was that people can't dream if they're dead, but dreaming people can die, right? Like that's the hierarchy for me is like
Sure.
Sure. Where is it written that dead people couldn't dream?
I mean, so that's a kind of a thing actually too, which again, Kat had brought up when we were talking is like dead people go to heaven or hell via Christian whatever, and like hell exists in DC Comics. So like if you go to hell in DC Comics, have you truly died or are you still waiting for death to claim you?
No, you're waiting for Joss Whedon to make a movie about you.
Because in Facade, Death says that Randy is looking for oblivion. She says oblivion's not gonna happen.
Living's not an option. You're going somewhere.
No, but like so that's kind of a thing is so where does death take people canonically via Neil Gaiman Sandman comics? Cuz like it's probably not to hell, right?
I mean, it might be.
It might be.
It's to whatever's next, is what she always says.
It very well could be hell. Like I could see like why would hell exist if not to fulfill the purpose that it fulfills in the Judeo-Christian
It's like so blasé. And like if you don't believe in hell, do you not go there? Like it's so I don't know.
all
Where
I
does
can tell
death
you
take
is
people? Neil Gaiman, tell me.
when Cap jumped out of the plane, he's like, "There's only one God, ma'am, and they don't. And he doesn't dress like that." So that's it. Technically, that would imply that hell also exists in Marvel. So it's not just it's a universal idea, is what
I
I'm
mean, hell
getting at.
does exist in Marvel, but like Asgard exists in Marvel, so who the fuck knows?
I mean, in the sound of her wings, doesn't she say that she doesn't even know what's next?
I mean, it could
So
be that she just doesn't know
Maybe,
what's
but
next
then
for
like they
fulfilling
know
the
about hell. Morpheus went there, so like, does
purpose.
that count then?
I I don't know. I mean, hell needs to be filled with souls somehow, right?
Like it's possible she knows what comes next. She just doesn't know what comes next for that person. Maybe it's to keep her impartial. Like she doesn't know where everyone goes.
Well, I mean, it's possible that like you only go to hell if you believe in hell, right? In the same way that the endless only exist because people exist. Like,
I don't think it's fair to hold Neil Gaiman accountable to make right all of the existence of the DC
oh
universe.
no, I'm not trying to do that, Pat. I'm sorry. I'm just
Well,
like,
like at some point, the minutia of a comic book shouldn't be examined beyond a certain point, right? Like there's
Pat,
going to
why do
be.
we even podcast?
I'm just saying we're circling around the fact that there aren't answers
You
because there
guys are
just
fun.
aren't.
No, I still think I'm thinking about this from a game design perspective now, of all
Sure, why not?
things.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Of like, is there a world where the dreamers would be allowed to circumvent Rule 23, which is people must die? I don't know.
Well, I guess it depends on what you consider death to be. Is it just endings?
Yeah.
I don't know if a universe can exist without endings.
Yeah.
If you have a beginning, that means there needs to be an end. So I don't know if it would be like
I mean, but
a
like
rule of
maybe
the
that's just
universe
our
would be.
limited, weird human mindset, though.
I don't know. I'm with like it's a law of the universe that if things begin, things end.
I mean, I think my real like bullshit nerd argument is canonically the older the endless hour, the more powerful they are, and like death is older than dream.
But I question whether she's actually older than him.
Mike, I'm looking at a list here, and it lists them in order. It says destiny, death, dream, destruction, desire, despair, delirium.
That means
So
something died before something dreamed. That okay, fine. I'll accept it. It's fine.
I mean, yes,
I mean,
probably.
to dream, you'd have to have a certain level of
There's a lot of
intelligence, right?
complex circuitry you'd need up there, yeah.
Single-celled organisms die.
Probably didn't
Ah, you're
dream.
right.
And they did have a destiny to die.
Well, because they existed
Yes.
and they did things,
Yes.
and then they
They're in
died.
they're in the book somewhere.
Yeah,
Page
first
3.
few, the first few chapters of the book are pretty boring, but yeah.
Some stuff crawled out of the ocean. It mostly died, but one of them did okay.
So Mike says dream, Matt says death.
I think so, yes. Although I
And
do think Mike has an out with the cats thing.
sure.
Cats are super powerful.
And I say neither actually wield any power, so it
No
doesn't make
one
any
has
sense.
power except the beings of the universe.
Yeah, yeah. So that was good. Good question.
Should we take mine next? Because I feel like Pat's is all encompassing and
As
should be
always.
last.
Yeah, let's do yours.
What is the most horrific action in this volume? Because, like, there's bad stuff that happens in this volume.
In
I'd argue.
Sandman? What?
Yeah, right. I'd argue the worst thing is the fact that, like, Calliope is, like, captured and raped for years, decades.
Like
Like,
70 some
Morpheus
years?
was captured. He didn't get raped. Why does bad stuff happen to women in Sandman, you guys?
Because he was in a bubble, she wasn't.
Ooh,
My answer is because it's a horror story.
sure. But,
But
like,
that's not the question that's being. I'm answering the second question and not the first.
yes, I know. So for me, it's honestly between because I before we started recording, I told you guys like there are two things I potentially considered, but mostly this question's here because I want to start talking about the fact that like the book is not entirely kind to women. But the
I
two the two
Good.
things I had considered, and Pat, I'll give you a second,
Thank you.
is Calliope being like raped and captured and chained up and locked in a room a lot,
Uh,
or the cat in the second issue's children just being like tossed in a river. Cause like what the hell? I think the first one's much worse, but the second one's not good either.
Okay, so I'm torn between the kittens or Calliope. I yeah, there's no good way to go about it. Like they're both pretty fucking awful. But yeah, I do agree. Like it does seem that Dream suffered something very very similar to her and did not get raped. Decidedly was
Like
naked
that's the
the whole
thing,
time.
right? Is like
Um,
their imprisonments are compared in this volume, but Dream is not raped. Like
Dream did not have to deal with that's a whole extra layer of not only imprisonment and loss of freedom, but also loss of
Like
control over
violation,
your
right? Just
yes,
like complete.
like
And there's
complete and
the
utter being like you're being degraded. You're less than a I guess she's not a person. Less
no. I
than the
mean,
personified
she
person
is a
thing that she
person.
is. I
There's
don't know
the
what
thing. He's like, she's
I
not
say
even
multiple
human.
times she's not a human. Like I don't know that she is a person. I'm not saying she's not. I just don't like she's. I can't say she's not made less than human. Is what I was trying to.
Anyways, Pat, you had a thought. I think.
Well, I'm going to answer the second question because that's the question I thought you were going to answer or
Okay.
ask first time. My answer to why are women treated the way they are in this book is because it's a horror comic written in the 80s and early 90s, and it
Like,
is
okay, so
a
now you're
comic of
going
its
with it's a
time.
product of its times, but like, fuck that.
I'm just, as someone whose comic life started with The Crow, in which I will tell you the treatment of Calliope is very similar to the main character's
Oh
girlfriend.
boy,
Oh
Pat,
boy.
can I? You've been on the email chain that I've been having with the people who are gonna eventually guest host on this and other episodes,
I have been,
and we
yes.
talked about identity crisis. Like, it doesn't stop in the '90s, man. It goes till 2007 at least.
Sure, and I think, yeah, yes. But I would say that, well, it doesn't fully excuse the treatment of women and the use of them for evoking a horrific scene. I don't mean, I guess my question revolved like mistreatment of women, sexual assault on women. It's sort of a cheap shock factor, right? But at the
Yes.
same time, if you're trying to write a world that is, can you at once like treat it as a real thing that happens in a story, or is that like is any mention or depiction of sexual violence in and of itself something to be derided? Like, is it something to be avoided, or like, tell me, Matt, as a writer,
That's the thing that I don't think I've really written about or like at all, because to
like,
me, it's
unfortunately,
not a
sexual
thing that I
violence is a
want
thing
to
that
encounter.
exists, though. Well, sure, but like
No,
it's,
I mean, I agree with you. Like, it
and
is
if
a
you're
thing that
crafting a
exists.
real or trying to craft a real world, wouldn't removing the thing that is, it's a powerful thing. Like the depiction of Calliope in this is both written and illustrated in a way to evoke nausea and upsetness from the readers, right? It's
No,
not,
and I agree with you. Like, the thing you get out of the fact that Maddox rapes Calliope is Maddox fucking sucks and he's terrible, right? Like,
and
you
he's
get the
depicted as
point.
such, yeah.
But like every single volume of Sandman so far has had women getting like
Right. And I do
sexually
think he
assaulted or
probably,
raped.
yeah.
Yep.
And I
Multiple
do
times.
think Gaiman could probably have found better means of doing horror than that. But
And like, would a terrible dude do this to this muse? Probably, yes.
Yeah.
But like, dudes can be raped too. There's no dudes getting raped in Sandman.
It is an interesting point that this was written in the 80s and 90s, and
Is it though, Mike, or is it just like
I think
people
it
have
is.
sucked for a long time?
I know people have sucked. Fuck you, dude. People have sucked for forever.
since
Like,
there's been people,
People
like,
continue to suck.
yeah, in the 80s and 90s. This. I mean, you know as well as I do that this is a trope. Like, yeah, it was an easy shock factor, and it establishes the bad guy as a bad guy, and oh, he's a bad guy because he raped her, and that's really like what we do get some backstory to Calliope, which I do. Am I saying her name right?
there's an E
Like,
at the end.
it's close to
Calliope.
that. Calliope. Yeah.
Calliope.
It is spelled out on one of the pages. Hang on.
My Midwestern accent is coming through.
Calliope.
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 Like she has the backstory of she was coming back for a visit after a long time, and she was just being nostalgic, and so we get some backstory for her actually being her own being, but for the most part, guys, there as a she's there to be a damsel. Like that's what she is. I don't
mean, for the character, yeah.
like there could very well have been any other character there, and there's nothing really that she brings that anyone else couldn't have brought.
I mean, I don't actually know if I just like agree with that. Like the fact that she's a historical muse plays in like I actually kind of agree with Pat's point that like this is a thing would happen if this situation occurred. But at the same time, like
Well, I mean,
how many times?
if you take it as okay, so in Gaiman's world, muses inspired artists. The artists wooed the muses, right? That's what they said. That historically, that's the way you would woo them, and then they would. So, is it in his world? Do you have to have sex with a muse for them to inspire you? Is that just like a thing that is given?
I don't know, Pat.
Because that's the real question. Like, if sex doesn't need to happen, then holy God, what the heck are those men doing to that poor woman?
Oh, I mean, they're terrible men. Like we're all in agreement about that. I think.
It's just, it's a very Gaiman twist on the idea of muses and how they inspired artists, and then taking it to extremes.
I don't know if it's. I'm still on the fence. I haven't answered the question yet between the kittens drowning or the rape of Calliope. Calliope.
Satan's drowning is also very sad.
I mean, you can understand why the cats want to fucking kill everyone. Like, yeah, I had these kittens and they were beautiful and my life was happy, and then someone put them in a bag and drowned them in front of me. You know, I'd kill some people. There'd be some death. It's a logical next thing to happen, but instead it's a house pet. And it's I know there's an awful lot of personifying I'm doing here because it's
I mean, you're meant to personify.
you're
Like that's
meant
the
to,
whole
yeah,
point of the story.
that's true. But it's yeah, that's a torturous read. So
Well,
I don't.
oh, go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. You go ahead. Maybe I'll have made up my decision by the time you're done.
No, so like the third action I was considering was when Ra transforms Rainy into Element Girl. Cause like that's it's not quite a rape, but it's close, right? Like she's ordered to go in there, and she does, and I think she wants to go because she wants to get powers for Uncle Sam. But like,
Right.
look at that like that panel where Ra is just like molding her, and she's so in distress, just like 2 out of 4 volumes, I would argue, kind of have or 2 out of 4 issues kind of have a rape in them, a little bit.
Plus, those artists aren't paid. It's rough.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
Oberon got a free show.
I think I think I have to go with the kittens. I'm sorry. It's can't drown babies, guys. Don't drown babies. Drowning babies is bad.
It
Okay.
is bad. I
Mm.
don't know if it's as bad as raping a muse for like literally 60 years or whatever it is, though.
Except
70
the Modoc guy only had like 1 year. So there you go. So it's not not
He
all.
had so many more years than that, Mike. He wrote multiple novels.
Okay, fine. Like you're
Plus
right.
the other
I'm
guy
not.
before that, Erasmus Fry.
Yeah, but that's his fault.
But I'm saying, like,
It doesn't make the rape any less rape.
no. I don't know,
Uh,
man. The series does not always treat women well. And I think that's worth talking about. And that's mostly what the question was about for me.
It is a fair point, and it is noticeable that every issue, every volume, not every issue has seems to have that problem.
All right, Pat, do you
Thank
have a
you.
decision yet?
I was
I
going to
mean, I
say
think it's
speaking of difficult-
Calliope, but I think mistreatment of animal is awful. But at the end of the day, it's an animal, right? In this, they're personified to have like
Still a
high.
living being. Still kill the living being. But
No, I
like,
know, and it's awful, but like
I mean, I agree with you.
they don't. I don't think cats have telepathy, so I don't think the mother cat would like
I mean, you
feel
don't
them
know though,
dying.
Pat. You don't know about whether
It's
they do
true.
or not.
I don't. This is true.
I should
Yes,
qualify. Sorry, finish,
No,
Patrick.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So say I
Qualify.
should qualify my answer as I am putting the cats that are drowning into my personified bubble, so they have all the emotions that are displayed in this
Sure.
book.
Mike's a parent. He cares about children. It's whatever.
It's his trigger. I understand.
Yeah, fuck it.
I
Okay, it's true.
understand.
It's true at this point.
But my thing with Calliope, obviously, her treatment is monstrous at the hands of both Aramis and Madoc. But I think what really like twists the knife for me is the fact that she asks for help from the Hecate, and they say no for the dumbest of reasons, and that just ruins it for me. Like that's just awful.
It is the Sandman, right? Like it's his series, but like Calliope's got to wait for that man to rescue her.
Well, Hecate, yeah, the Hecate say, yeah, can't do anything because Aramis knew his myths, knew that he needed that flower, and he burned your scroll. Our hands are tied. Can't do anything for you. Sorry. It's like the fuck.
This guy can come save you.
So because a story, an old story, says a muse can be captured this way, this woman is damned for decades of torture. It's just, yeah, that's pretty awful.
It is notable that Morpheus comes to rescue her, as opposed to Nala in Volume 1, who he's like, fuck you.
Yeah, Nala just sat in hell, and as far as we know, is still there.
Which
I
again,
mean, Nada.
mistreatment of women in the volume, the story.
I
think
haven't
it's-
forgiven you yet.
I think it's Nada, but yeah,
Is it Nada? Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote it wrong.
Nala's in the Lion King.
it's true.
All right, Pat, should we tackle your question?
Sure.
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 It's very uplifting after that one, actually, this whole
Sure.
volume.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being such a downer, you guys, but like we're 3/11ths of the way in, and like we gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about the fact that people keep getting raped in this series.
And unfortunately, mostly are predominantly women. And yeah, I agree that is, I think, of any kind of negatives anyone could throw at the Sandman, I think treatment of women would be number one. If you were going to introduce someone to the series, I would probably give them a warning that
Speaking
there
of
is a
problems with women, has anyone seen Kyle Rayner's refrigerator recently?
the comics have a history of
Not
not
being
doing great
great.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you get what I mean? You just keep doing better. Moving forward. Speaking of, here's my question. If we were to consider these stories to be cautionary tales, what is Gaiman trying to warn us about?
I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
Why should I consider these stories to be cautionary tales, Pat?
I mean, that's just a given for the question, Matthew. You've
No,
got
no,
to
no,
take
but
an assumption.
gotta salt the premise a little bit here, Pat.
Have you ever been an unpaid artist, Matthew? Do you know what that's like?
Yes, Mike.
Then you damn well know why they're cautionary tales. You don't just agree to play
It's
in the middle
true.
of a field. You get your payment
Sometimes
up
you just
front.
put your shit on Gumroad, Mike. You put your shit on Gumroad and you hope, and no one buys it. Anyways, I want to go back up. Why do I consider these stories to be cautionary tales, Pat? Because I'm not sure I did until you posed the question, and then I was like, oh, I get it. But I want to hear you explain
I
it.
don't know if what I don't know if I have an explanation of why you should. It's just the assumption for the question to exist.
But like,
Matthew.
why do you have that assumption?
I don't what? I don't understand your question, Matthew. I'm
The book
sorry.
didn't. I didn't turn to a page on the book and it was like, hey, these are cautionary tales. So
Yeah,
like,
for the question to work, you are to then consider them as such and then try
well,
to
yeah, but
interpret
like,
them.
obviously you assume that they are. Why so?
Because it's a way to analyze the stories in a different perspective. I don't understand your question, Matthew.
What about the stories makes you think they're cautionary tales? I think they're great, Pat. I think that I should do
Uplifting and
everything
happy.
in these stories.
That's obviously not true.
You should. I would be very happy to see you perform a play in the middle of a field, Matthew. I will pay you in full to see your performance.
Sometimes I sing the music for movies in computer labs. It's basically the same thing. But do you get what I'm saying, Pat? Like
Not
the
really.
question assumes a thing that I'm not entirely sure is true. So
But
convince
that's
me that
why
it's
it's in a.
true.
That's not the point of the question. The point of the
Pat,
question
you
is
didn't
to
take any
then.
logic classes in college.
I
Gotta
took
break the
plenty.
whole thing
I
down.
took physics. You have to set assumptions for the question to make
Oh,
sense.
Pat, physicists don't set assumptions. They assume things to try to like do equations or whatever.
There
But
you
at the end of
go.
the
You
day,
just said they do
but at the end of
assumptions.
the day, they break down their assumptions, Pat.
No, they don't.
Yes,
They
they
set
do.
at the beginning of the question what the assumptions are.
Big
Matthew,
frog.
who has the degree in physics?
You probably. Why are they cautionary?
Because they can be interpreted as such, is why they are cautionary tales.
You guys are such assholes. You know that?
Why am I an asshole?
Because I
Why
want you
are
to
you
be
an
one.
asshole?
All
That's a
I
good
did was
question.
ask a
That's an assumption
question,
that we have to break down.
and we haven't even gotten to it yet because Matt is picking apart the very substance of my question.
I
So
think I honestly think it's interesting that you assume they're cautionary tales because I didn't. So I want to know why.
Matthew, why do you think I consider these to be cautionary tales?
How dare you?
stupid.
Mike, what do
I'm
you
interested
think?
on your answer. No, don't off put it to Mike.
No, I want to hear what Mike thinks.
You want to know what I think? I
He
think
doesn't have a stake here.
I think y'all I think y'all are nuts.
I think reading these
Um
stories, there are actions taken that obviously didn't lead to good endings.
Unless
okay.
Unless what? Was there an ending that you thought was beneficial to the characters in the story?
I really thought when Element Girl finally committed suicide by sun, that was no, not really. I mean,
Okay, well then
Shakespeare's
they're
doing okay.
not really. I'll get there.
Does.
No. So elaborate on that, Pat. Why do you think
Do you
Shakespeare's
want
not
my
doing okay?
answers? Do you want my answers to these? I can break it down individually and then I have one for all of them together.
Yeah, I mean, do it, I
I'll
guess, because
do it
maybe that'll give
individually
me the answer to my
first.
question, which you refuse to
Oh my
answer.
god, no, because your question doesn't fucking matter.
This is America. He doesn't need to answer.
Pat, what kind of critical thinkers are we
I
if we
told you
don't
why.
examine the assumptions behind a question?
You're never allowed to go get beers before we do a podcast again, Matthew.
Yeah, I do think that.
All right, cautionary
Oh,
tale for Calliope.
Yep.
Dangers of forcing inspiration or the perversions of creativity for the purpose of fame.
All right.
sure.
A dream of a thousand cats. Our limitations can be self-inflicted.
Except she's a cat. There's like okay,
The
acceptable.
cats aren't. The cats consider themselves to be cats, right?
True.
That's the problem. They don't dream themselves to be something greater. They're fine with their subservience to humans, and therefore they're limited by it. The main cat character is trying to convince them to dream of something more. Midsummer's Night Dream is our true dreams may not be what we expect.
Okay.
I think William Shakespeare is pursuing his dream to be a great playwright, to influence the dreams of men, while at the same time he's missing the fact that his little boy is growing up beside him. And we know that Hamlet is going to die young, so he's going to miss out on the rest of his life, and he's squandering the time that he has with his son.
Fair. Fair.
Facade, sometimes it's okay to give up on your dreams.
Deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you guys have?
I mean, my answer to the question is wanting something too fucking much can mess you up.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
most of it, right? Like all of those. So in the first one, Maddox wants to be a great writer to the point where he's willing to like repeatedly rape a woman,
Yep.
and it sucks. In the second one, that cat is obsessed with like changing the world into a cat world to the point where she's just like traveling the world trying to convince cats to dream a cat world. The Shakespeare one you basically touched on where like it's implied that Shakespeare just writes Hamlet when his son dies.
Yeah. And Hamlet knew that was coming.
Yeah, and Hamnet was like, "Yeah,
Pretty
my
sure if I
father
were
just
to,
writes about shit. He doesn't
yeah,
actually like live. He just writes about living."
his wife and his other daughter haven't seen him in years,
And I
and
mean,
they
it
live.
Dream talks about that in that one too, right? Where,
Yeah.
hang on, I'm trying to find the exact quote. They only see the prize, their heart's desire, their dream, but the price of getting what you want is getting once you wanted, which like, woof, that one hit
Yep.
home a little bit, honestly. Like, what do you do next? I don't know. I guess sit in your apartment and have depression, according to Facade.
Yeah.
Also, not wrong. Like that's a thing.
So yeah, Pat, like part of the reason I asked you about the assumption in the question is because I hadn't considered it that way before, but rereading it, I found it, I think.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Where like in each of the stories, maybe not exactly the cat's one, but like in each of the other stories, like the protagonists wanted the thing so much that they fucked up the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure Rainey wanted it that much. She was given it. Like that's the thing is like,
She just kind of ended up with it.
yeah. So it's like, is it just like being exceptional fucks you up? Is that the moral?
I mean, my overarching moral is the dangers of getting caught up in the stories we tell ourselves, which is basically the same thing as you said
Close,
for the
yeah.
most part. Because, yeah, as you said, Aramis and Maddox got caught up in the allure of being celebrated authors. And to keep that facade going, they do monstrous things, make promises to release Calliope and then never do. But
Can we
then at
talk
the
about
same,
that hairball?
what was that?
Can we talk about that hairball?
Yeah, that was
You
a weird.
can.
That's a very strange game and insert to that.
That was great. It's a great best way to start a story is just
I did
seeing.
really love the moment where Bry starts explaining what they are and is like, ah, fuck, I'm just like
Oh
doing
no,
exposition right now. I'm sorry. Which is such a writer thing where you're like,
yeah,
oh shit, I'm putting too much of my research for this story into this story. Anyways, continue, Pat.
yeah. I mean, and then Calliope, as I pointed out, the fact that she's basically trapped is only because of the story, the myth of the muses have trapped her there. Like she's following the rules dictated by the myth that Aramis caught her with a flower and burned her scroll, and therefore she can't leave.
Which is kind of true, right? Like she could just break the fucking window whenever she wanted, sort
Or
of.
like any of the like the Hecate who come, like they could definitely do something, but they choose not to because they're still following the story,
Yeah,
the
they're like,
myth.
hey, only a power beyond our bullshit rules can save you.
And then, like I say, the cats aren't going to dream themselves as something more because they're content with the story of themselves as small, weak, subservient humans.
The cats one is the one that doesn't quite fit with the thing that I like when Mike suggested his question as being like, what is the theme of this volume? As like the stories are so disparate, I'm not sure there is one. But then looking at it through the quote unquote cautionary tales lens is like, oh okay, like people who want a thing too much either A can become monstrous in pursuit of the thing, or B like can realize that the thing is unfulfilling and bullshit.
Right. Right.
Except that
But like what about the cats though then? In that like
Well, like I said, the cats are living lives as cats and not as rulers,
I mean
supposedly,
it's
because
at the
Gaiman
end.
says that they could.
It's at the end that the cats basically will never achieve this because they're cats and they're never gonna they're content.
They aren't
So
going to
that
all do the
implies
same
that
thing.
this cat that's walking around the world sharing the story is going to fail. Like it's not going to work. So ultimately, she wants this thing. She's seeking vengeance for her dead children, and it doesn't matter. Um, just she's caught up in it, and she's trapped by her own desire to change reality.
Yeah. And Rainey in Facade is trapped by the modern day myth of what a superhero should be. The fact that she doesn't match that is driven in her to like deep depression and suicide.
can I tell you how much the like title page of Facade just like I commiserate with it? The phone. Oh god, put on a brave face, it's just a telephone.
I have always loved Facade. It's probably my favorite Sandman issue,
Oh,
possibly.
Facade's an all-timer, even though like again it falls into the like
But like,
women
I
have
have
a
never
bad time trope.
resonated. I've resonated with. I did this last read through. It's like I feel you so much, girl. I understand
Yeah,
exactly
especially the
what you're
last year
doing.
and a half or whatever, right?
Like being locked in a room and like wanting more, but being terrified of like going outside or like interacting with it. Like, oh, girl, I feel it.
I worked from the coffee shop today. It's fine, Pat. Everything's fine. I'm fine.
I'm telling you guys, a year of like quarantining. I don't know, like agoraphobia is a little much, but it's brought out some of that.
I tried to say good morning to someone at the library when I was dropping off a book, and I think just because like I'm not used to talking to people, it came out as like,
Oof.
damn it.
Interacting
Yeah,
with people is yeah. I don't know. It did hit me a little bit noticing that she was stuck at home, just like constantly in need of cigarettes. Like, yeah, I can commiserate with that. After the last 2 years, whatever, it's gonna be 2 years shortly.
I mean, I've had my face fall into some bolognese. Let me tell you
Rainy needs Discord, is what she needs.
something. But like even Raw in that story is caught up in his own myth, right? He's still
Yes,
creating the
yeah, where he's like,
metamorphosis.
hey, I'm just gonna keep making
The,
these
the
because
battle has been done for hundreds or thousands of years, and he's still doing it. He's still caught up in it
he's gotta fight it, man, because that's what he wants.
because the story tells him that's the thing he needs to do, so he does it. So yeah, that's the way that there's a common through line. There's a cautionary tale throughout all of them. Mike, did you have any other ones that you thought had a tale that we didn't, or a moral that we didn't touch on?
No, I think you hit them all.
But Mike, why did I choose them to be cautionary tales? That's the real
Because you're
question that we have
Patrick
to get down
Fitzgerald
to.
Fleck and you do whatever the fuck you want.
No,
There it
can I tell
is.
you though,
There it
when
is.
Mike was considering his question being like, what the hell is the theme of this volume? And I was like, I don't know if there is a theme because it's four completely different single issues. I was like, oh, okay, maybe though, there's the theme about like the toll of creation, if that makes sense, of like Madoc does these terrible things to produce his novels and movies and whatever, and like the cats have to like really work to make this world that's the cat world, and Shakespeare has made this weird fucking deal with Dream where he's got to make two plays and like it completely obliterates his relationship he has with his family. And Rainey has been like transformed into something other than human and didn't really give her permission, but like has been recreated as Element Girl. Like that was
He
kind of what I was
knowingly entered
considering.
the pyramid, but yeah.
Yeah, like the thing to me was like, okay, each of these stories is kind of talking about how the act of creating something new either like itself is monstrous or like takes a toll. I don't know. That's kind of what I was kicking around initially
Sure.
before we went for the cautionary tales framework.
Which I think is all the same. Or it's
Yeah.
circling all the same
Yeah.
thing, I think.
Yeah, no, it's all in the same wheelhouse for sure.
I gotta say, people really like that Midsummer Night's Dream issue. I'm not a big fan. I find it
So
more boring than the other three.
so in
It's
the
them.
volume I have, there's a script for Calliope. I don't know if there
Yep.
is in the volume you guys read. You guys read. And then
No.
in the so Neil Gaiman has a master class about writing, and one of them is about comics, and like he goes through the script for Midsummer Night's Dream, and that was super interesting actually, because like it's all in his notebook, and he's got like thumbnails and stuff. So if you liked that issue, which apparently is award winning,
I
that's something you might want to check out.
I
I
think I
don't
need
know.
to be a bigger fan of Shakespeare and specifically Midsummer's Night Dream because I can see that he does fun things with
I
the
was
play
trying to
within
pay
a
more
play.
attention to like these are the passages he specifically chose when I was rereading it today.
Yeah.
And still don't think I quite got there. I think I'm on the same page as you.
I think it's fun, and I think if you're like a Shakespeare file, you'll really enjoy it. Obviously, it's award winning, but yeah, it really compared to Facade, psh, please, please,
I mean, the art's very good.
true.
I mean, the art's very good in Facade too, but
Facade's real good.
I enjoyed that the actors were proud that they were pretty when they were wearing drag. That was fun.
the page where Puck is doing the final bit from Midsummer Night's Dream
Yeah,
and just looks real creepy is good.
doing a Grinch smile. Yeah,
Again, I think I also would probably agree with you, Pat, that I got more out of Facade personally.
Yeah, I think it's a fun issue more so than it's obviously Facade is 100% Gaiman creation, right? Midsummer's Night's Dream is
Sort of. I mean,
Gaiman
Element
fun.
Girl is not.
I mean, the Metamorphe themselves aren't, but like the story around her is.
I told you, Pat, that there's a Neil Gaiman like Metamorpho bit that's in Wednesday
You have
Comics,
said
which
that.
was like that weekly thing that came out in newspaper format or whatever.
Hmm.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
I guess Neil
should
Gaiman
give it
likes
a
his
go.
Metamorphe.
They are
I mean, who
themselves
doesn't?
tragic figures, which I feel Gaiman is attracted to. All right, we good?
I
You
think
on?
so.
Awesome.
Are you though? Is anyone ever actually good?
I yelled a lot, so I'm
Did
feeling good
I'm
about
gonna have
it.
to I'm gonna have to cut that rant about why I picked the question, the structure of my question.
No, keep it, because like
I'm gonna
what
edit some of it.
it's
I'm
a
gonna edit some of it, Matt.
He has a skin disease.
There's only 2 beers before and
You
1
had a
during.
double. You had a no, two. Don't give me your excuses.
There's 2 beers before, one of which was a double,
Some
and
good
then
discussions this time. Always nice to explore different perspectives.
Skin disease.
The Dream Journal will be back in the near future to delve into Sandman Volume 4, Seasons of Mists.
yeah, you can re-record this whenever you want.
We'll be joined by a special guest, so be sure not to miss it. Till then, don't give Matt any more beers.
Yeah, she has a skin disease.
Could she even eat that spaghetti bolognese? That's what I want to know. She doesn't have a
I
stomach,
was
right?
actually wondering about that.